No. You read that title right. No need to check your specs. No need to rub your eyes. You did not misread that. That is exactly what that title says. And let me just put a little bit of disclaimers here, because I know there's going to be people that just read the title, get in the comments section like a nerd, and just go crazy, go ballistic here. So let me hit the disclaimer, because I refuse to be misconstrued. At no point during this video am I saying that Anthony Richardson is literally better than Jalen Hurts, okay? Let's just make that clear. Jalen Hurts is coming off an MVP season. Did he actually win the MVP? I don't know. The point is that when you look at the 2022 NFL season, if one person defines that season to me, it's Jalen Hurts. And obviously spectacular through the playoffs, into the Super Bowl, toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. That was what it was. Jalen Hurts is spectacular. And then on top of that, I want to point out that obviously my expectation for Anthony Richardson is not that this year he would be better than Jalen Hurts, or even the next year or the year after that. There's no guarantee that anyone on any level is better than Jalen Hurts. He has already accomplished a lot in his young career. 24 years of age, Jalen Hurts is already the best quarterback in the NFC, top 5, top 7 quarterback in the NFL. If you're a hater, you could argue him to the backside of the top 10. I wouldn't. Point being is Jalen Hurts is spectacular. I don't want to take anything away from him. That is what it is. And I think I mentioned, if not, I'll say it one more time, I don't want this to be the expectation for Richardson. I did say that, but I'm going to say it again, okay? So it's not an expectation piece, and it's not me saying that Richardson is better than Hurts. But what it is some sort of speculative piece, right? I'm speculating and optimistic, right? I mean, we are right about to be at training camp. We haven't even played a game yet, okay? Before I get realistic, let me have some fun here. And the closer we get, the more excited I get. And I think it's beyond just me being a Colts fan. I think we can make a legitimate case that Anthony Richardson's upside in Shane Steichen's offense, which I'll get into, and again, we know there's a range of outcomes, right? Anthony Richardson's upside is all the way up in the heavens, right? And then the downside is maybe in the depths of hell. Maybe not quite that deep, but you get my point. We know that there's a range of outcomes. This is as much of a dart throw as ever could be. But I think in this Shane Steichen offense, which I'm about to explain to you, this has a way to hit in a way that disrupts the league heavy, right? So let's get into it. But before we do, let me just introduce myself. I always do it. My name is Justin. This is the Ride the Bench Colts cast. Thank you so much for being here up to this point, not just clicking the video, listening for like a couple minutes. I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for that. If you're enjoying this right now or end up enjoying it in 5 minutes, go ahead and shoot it a like, please, because it's going to let me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. My goal is to become a major player in the Colts community. I mean, ever since I've been young, I've been a diehard fan of this team. I'm 26 now. I've been a fan basically forever, my whole life. And, it's really cool that I get to come on here and do this. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers. Can't believe that happened. And we're right there. If you want to help me get there, go ahead. Shoot a subscription. We're on our way to 1,000. Let's turn this into the greatest damn channel in all of Colts media, yeah? Yeah. All right. So, there's a few different angles to take here when we talk about this. I'm going to start by just setting the context that Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson came into the league with, okay? So you look at Jalen Hurts. This was a guy that played at Alabama before transferring to Oklahoma. This is a guy that started 42 games in college. And his resume, I don't want to say technically second to none because dudes have done a lot. There are no questions about Jalen Hurts' resume. If you want to go against resumes, him versus Anthony Richardson is like no contest. Anthony Richardson, 13 starts. I don't even think had a winning season. If he did, it was like by one game. Didn't really put up great numbers. Obviously, the talent wasn't there. Jalen Hurts playing with some of the best teams in college football. So that's all there. But what Jalen Hurts accomplished in college, I mean, for Anthony Richardson to be drafted at the 4th pick and then Jalen Hurts to slip all the way into round 2. Was it round 2 or round 3? I don't have it in front of me, but it was not round 1, and it was not later than round 3, okay? Jalen Hurts was a 2nd or 3rd round pick. That's my point, a day 2 pick, right? And this came down to the talent. And this is really where things get interesting for me, because you look at Jalen Hurts. What were the questions about Jalen Hurts? Why did he slip? It wasn't his ability to run. It wasn't him as an athlete. The questions around Jalen Hurts had to do with whether or not he had a good enough arm to be on the NFL level. Obviously, he was able to accomplish what he accomplished in college, but I mean, there's a lot of great college quarterbacks that you don't hear boo about in the NFL because just the windows are tighter. You just have to have a bigger arm. Things are just different. in the NFL for a number of reasons. But the questions around Jalen Hurts had to do with whether or not he really had an NFL arm. And obviously, he's proven everyone wrong, but that's through his hard work. The questions around Anthony Richardson are nothing of the sort. The questions are very much about like completion percentage, the amount of starts he's had, so on and so forth. All of those things, right? Everyone's just asking about his accuracy and his experience. No one has a question about the size of his arm. And I think what makes Anthony Richardson so interesting is that he has the legs of Jalen Hurts, who by all means, off the top of my head, has to be the best running quarterback in football. Justin Fields maybe gives him a run for his money, but Jalen Hurts is big time. He has the legs of Hurts. Again, fastest 40. I mean, Richardson's a gazelle. I don't have to say this, right? But his arm is that of the greatest arms in the NFL. That is something you can't just skip over that, because even though he hasn't played all these games in college, when you look at his press conference afterwards, right? And what do we know about Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts made it there through hard work, as what I just said. There is something to be said about a guy that comes into a room, and some people would call this an X factor. I don't know exactly what to call it, but I think you're going to understand what I'm saying. It's like a presence, his character, his personality. When you see a Jalen Hurts interview, just the way he talks, there's just something about him. I'd imagine if you were in a room with Jalen Hurts, there'd be an aura around that. And I don't mean to sound like weird or like, I don't even know what the term would be, but I don't know. I don't mean to, you get what I'm saying. Some people walk into a room and you're like, what the heck is this? Jalen Hurts has those traits. So it's those things that translate not only just into like an interview and a press conference, but they translate onto the field, your confidence, how slow things are moving for you, the way you can command the huddle. It's that presence that translates. That stuff you can't teach. That's what got Jalen Hurts to where he had to be, because it's even now, no one would argue that Jalen Hurts physically has one of the top 5 arms in football. That's not what's going on. I'm sure he would take exception to that. I mean, no disrespect. If anything, I think that's a compliment to Jalen Hurts, because he is such a spectacular dude, just an A1 guy. He's really been able to overachieve on some level, at least when it comes to being an NFL quarterback, and will continue to do so. There's no questions in my brain that Jalen Hurts is going to be a guy for a very long time. Now, that would be the separating factor. The thing is that Anthony Richardson we don't know, seems to have that same thing. And I was very skeptical about the pick going into the draft. And be 100% honest. Of course, I was immediately prepared to support him, nurture him, be fair to him. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we wanted a quarterback so bad, it would be incredibly unfair to crap, even if it was Will Levis, to crap on the guy when we got him. I mean, that'd be absurd. Anyone who is willing to do that or is doing that now, go root for a different team, please, all right? We don't want you here. That's neither here nor there. But when I saw Anthony Richardson in his post-game press conference, oh my goodness, you want to talk about a guy that just takes over the entire room. And it wasn't just there. The more I hear like people talk about Matthew Berry comes off the top of my head. He's a guy, for those of you who don't know, fantasy analyst. He has an opportunity to meet these rookies every year. ESPN does something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I mean, everyone that meets Anthony Richardson comes away from it and just says, this guy is very, very impressive. And Matthew Berry, big fan, obviously. I'm not a big fan of Matthew Berry. What I'm saying is that Matthew Berry, a huge fan of Anthony Richardson. Dan Orlovsky, another very reputable name, who says this guy is something different. And it's something to consider. So he has the intangibles of Jalen Hurts, so it seems, right? But the talent, dare I say, is on another level. And then you look at the way Shane Steichen runs his offense. He was obviously able to accomplish incredible things with everyone, really, but we're talking about Jalen Hurts. I want to give you some stats for the Philly offense last year. Again, not a stats guy, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make a case, okay? So this was Google doing the work for me. Actually, it was Horseshoe Huddle or Colts Wire. I forget. I told myself I was going to cite them. I'm going to put it in the description so you could go ahead and read it for yourself. It's a very interesting read, and it'll give you great insight as to what you can expect from the Colts offense this year. But Philly, over 80% of their passes last year were either under 10 yards or over 20 yards. Now, the ones that were under 10 yards had an average depth of target of 2.5 yards. For those of you that don't know what depth of target is, it's essentially some sort of nerdy stat that is just how far down the field was the receiver when they threw the ball to him, okay? So an average of 2.5 yards, which tells you the screen game is massive. And if you did watch Philly last year, you saw a lot of tight end screen Jelani Woods, kind of besides the point, but a lot of tight end screens, a lot of running back screens, wide receiver screens, quick passing game. But when they weren't doing that, they were throwing it over 20 yards. In fact, the average depth of target on the passes over 20 yards was 31.8 yards. Now, Philadelphia was second in the league, I think, with 97 explosive plays. That's off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me. Point being is this was an explosive offense. Shane Steichen likes to go vertical. Now, go back to what I was saying about their talent. If you were to literally look at them on paper, when you're looking at a vertical offense, everything Shane Steichen did, the QB sneak, all of it. Are you going to tell me that skill set alone, Anthony Richardson isn't a more ideal fit? I think even the most seasoned, stubborn NFL enthusiast would have to concede that in terms of pure raw talent, forget the accomplishments, raw talent, Anthony Richardson fits with Shane Steichen like a glove. He's like literally, if you took Jalen Hurts' legs and gave him Justin Herbert's arm, all of a sudden you're dealing with our beloved quarterback. So this is something to be very, very excited about. And, you know, here's my thing. Here's the bottom line. If you were to ask Shane Steichen off the record, right, because obviously he has a great deal of respect for Jalen Hurts with what he just accomplished for him. If you were to ask him to just start making a checklist of things he would like, not needs, because we've heard him talk about he adapts his offense to the quarterback, but he wants, like, you know, just a wish list of things he wants in a quarterback, I may be willing to say that Anthony Richardson might check off more of those boxes than Jalen Hurts. Is that crazy? I personally don't think it is. I mean, and that is where we're at. Again, I think this is one of those things, guys, and I'm starting to get a feeling about this. I think I've made a video saying this, but I assume most people didn't see it. If Anthony Richardson is the hit, whether it's week 1, week 3, week 10, we look back on this season, let's say Anthony Richardson wins Offensive Rookie of the Year and just goes crazy. We're kind of going to look at some of the things I'm talking about right now, and the entire league is going to look back and say, well, not for anything. Why didn't we see that coming? And you know why they didn't see that coming? Because they don't know what the heck they are talking about. Anyone that you hear that is shitting on the Colts, listen, I'm not saying the Colts are the best team in the NFL, but anytime you hear the national media talk about the Colts, take it with a grain of salt. They don't pay attention to the Indianapolis Colts. If you want real opinions of people who care and watch and know the Indianapolis Colts inside and out, you got to watch the content creators. There's a great space on YouTube coming up with a bunch of great content. I don't even want to play the name game, not to not give anyone credit, but just as to not miss anybody. There's a great space here of people who really know about these Indianapolis Colts. So there's really no reason for you to be listening to what Pro Football Focus says or Bleacher Report. None of that. None of that BS. I'll say bullshit. I'm 13 minutes into the video. They're not going to stop me now. None of that bullshit, right? Anthony Richardson has the potential to become one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL with Shane Steichen as his coach. I think he fits better into what Steichen wants to do than Jalen Hurts did, and that is scary because we saw what the Eagles were last year. The one question, of course, is the weapons. You look at Philly, you can't argue that Indy's weapons are better than Philly. I mean, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith alone, by themselves, I mean, how many receiver tandems are better? Godwin Evans, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I can't think of another. Do you have another? I can't think of one. And, you know, Pittman I love. Pierce I love, but we'll see what he does. We have a lot of unproven talent, and I think that's maybe why the Colts get a lot of hate. But, guys, we're getting close. And I'm telling you right now, I'm getting a feeling that we're going to be very, very pleased with what we see out of Richardson. You know, the great Kent Sterling. Anyone who hates on Kent Sterling, let me not isolate you and say I don't want you here, because that's not true. But I happen to like his work. When you talk about insiders, people whose information you can trust, I mean, he's just the guy on YouTube. He's around, and he's already watched Richardson practice. And what he says is that there's a lot of Anthony Richardson trying to squeeze the ball into spaces he should not be trying to squeeze the ball into. Now, what he attributes that to, good point by Kent. I'll be at training camp, by the way, August 5th, August 6th. So they'll be about a week and a half in. So I'll tell you with my own eyes when the time comes what I'm seeing. But what Kent Sterling sees, and I'm inclined to kind of agree with him, because this is a good point by him, is he thinks Anthony Richardson is just trying to test the waters. Again, this is a guy that's only had 13 starts, and maybe just is not quite 100% sure what he can do. I mean, Anthony Richardson's talent is just immense. He probably doesn't even know what he can do. So he'd rather make those mistakes and see what he can do, what he can't do in practice. And I'm sure the coaches are encouraging this, as opposed to doing it on Sundays, week 1 through 18. So we're going to see what this is. But hopefully that was somewhat of a cohesive case. If not, I mean, I'm sorry. But I hope that was a cohesive case on to why I think Anthony Richardson can literally be better than Jalen Hurts. Can be better. Can be better. Can be better. Not is better. Can be better. And I think all of it's right there. It's just a matter of Shane Steichen and the rest of this coaching staff getting the best out of him. Yeah. And that's that. I only got you guys one episode this weekend, so I figured I would release one here on a Tuesday. So thank you for tuning in during the week. Yeah. I mean, just so for you, we're getting closer to the season. Let me just fill you guys in a little bit because, some of you have been rocking with me for a little while. I appreciate that. So, I figure I owe you some behind the scenes stuff. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but that's just how I roll. So it's been very, very difficult to give you meaningful. I've been trying my best, like meaningful, well thought out Colts content. It's been very difficult to do that during this time. I've been able to get maybe 2 or 3 a week out, and that has been a heavy struggle. I'm going to continue that pace probably until we get closer to the season. Once we get closer to the season with what I've been doing now, I think it's going to be so easy for me to pump out content. I think 3 a week is going to be the minimum. I'm really going to shoot for 4. I don't want to make any promises, but just so you kind of know where this channel is going, we're going to have a big season over here. My goal is to become maybe not the biggest. I want the best tight-knit community of Colts fans, smart Colts fan. I don't want all the bullshit. I don't want all the newcomers. I mean, if you're a newcomer, great, but I don't want all the fair weather fans. I want a community of diehard Colts fans who are looking to have some well thought out conversation. I want to push this thing further. I want to make the Colts more popular than they are. I want to further this community. I don't know how else to put it. Does it sound like a sales pitch? I'm telling you the truth. So with that, you just watched the episode. Thanks for sticking around this long. Somehow I babbled for over 15 minutes. I don't know how I did it, but yeah. Until next time, my name is Justin. This right here was the Ride on the Bench Colts cast. Go Colts.